Hello and welcome back everyone to Master Blender 3D with Wild West Environment. In the last lesson, we left ourselves off with a nice render setup preview so we can actually visualize what it looks like. One thing I did forget to mention is if in shading, if you want to increase the darkness, you can do so through the factor over here. So maybe just a little bit, we can go ahead and increase it. It's not going to matter too much. I think just keeping it on light shade is more than enough with the overall setup. Let's go back onto modeling setup and start with thinking about the backside in regards to additional tiny objects and items. So for example, this part over here, we have a nice extension, a nice setup overall. I will extend this roof, for example, just a little bit. So it could have a bit of an overhang, a tiny bit like so, not too much. We're going to worry about that later in the end. The other thing, well, let's go ahead and extend it just a little bit more to the sides, like so. Okay, the other thing that we need to consider is, again, how this is going to be behaving in the environment. What's the purpose of it? And well, this is an extension after all. We want to make sure we set it up as a nice piece. So what I mean by that is we can add a window over here, and that will make it seem a bit more pleasant to the eye. It'll make it seem like from the inside you can just sit on this overhang or whatnot and just enjoy a book or something, you know. We can even compare it to the human scale, just in case. I'm going to click Control and 1 just to see how it looks like in comparison to a human. So yeah, just sit on this ledge or something, or have some items over here. It's quite nice for additional setup. I think that's quite all right. It's not a separate room, it's just a bit of an extension. And yeah, for that reason, let's go ahead and add a small window piece. I think I'm just going to make a duplicate out of this part over here and just move it off to the side, scale it downwards, scale it in regards to y-axis, get it closer, and just so we could see what is going to happen over here. I think a window like that is going to be quite all right. Now we need to consider the scale of the window. So maybe a little bit higher up, something like that, right in the middle in regards to left and right side, and a little bit higher up in comparison to the overall setup. I think that's going to be quite okay. I'm going to rotate this human RZ 180 just to make sure it's facing us when we're working with the backside. Okay, so yeah, we have ourselves a nice setup over here. We're also going to consider what's underneath, because if we look at the perspective, let's go ahead and find it real quick. This part over here, we're going to want to have something hanging, and this part is going to be a sign indicating that the toilet is over here, and we're going to have a nice moon shape. All of that is going to be thought out in the future, but for now we just need to think on how we're breaking up this overall shape. The alternative way for this would have been maybe, again, supports sideways like this, but because we already have the supports going downwards, too much of it would have been a little excessive. So just having this sign over here helps us to break down this overall square shape. Otherwise it would have just been 90 degrees type of an entrance, just like that. It would have been quite rigid looking, let's put it this way. Let's go ahead and just add a quick sign. We can just duplicate this part. I'm going to go click 7, move this to the front, sorry, RZ 90 to make sure it's rotated properly, and just put it in somewhat around this area. In regards to scale of a sign, this is such a small prop, we don't really need to concern ourselves about the overall setup. All we need to think about is just how low it's going to go in regards to the style. I'm going to go ahead and move this a little bit to the front, so this way we can click Control 1 to go to the back view and just see if a person going up here is going back to bang his head. You know, maybe they need to lower their heads a little bit. Maybe every once in a while a taller person would end up just smacking their heads a little bit, but that's quite all right. I'm going to go ahead and select both of them, click Control 1 and see. So this first stair is over here. And see how it looks like. Honestly, this height is quite all right. I'm quite happy with this. Let's go ahead and keep this as a template for our future sign. And now let's go and start thinking about this. Well, these parts over here, they're going to be placed with smaller props and whatnot. I'm not too concerned about that. But on the other hand, I am concerned about the wagon on this end over here. So this wagon over here is going to help us break down this overall scene with the view. I think that's going to look quite nice. We just need to consider its size and space. Before doing that though, I think it's time to finally get ourselves a nice surface to work with. And what I mean by that is right now we're just working on an empty void. The character is not able to stand or anything. This house is just floating in space. Let's go ahead and fix that. We're going to go ahead and set ourselves up with a nice base. I'm going to hit Shift D, get ourselves a plane, and then upscale it to anything that I want. Well, not anything. Let's go ahead and see the top perspective. So it's going to be somewhat of a square, but not quite. It's actually has a bit of rounded edges. So for a gray box, we can just round off the edges, and I think it's going to be more than enough for an overall setup. In regards to the width, both sides seem to be having a little bit of that extra space from each larger asset. So we can leave that out a little bit. The front space is kept a little bit empty for an entrance, obviously. So we have to consider that, but the backside is also kept around the similar distance and whatnot. So yeah, we can work on that. We can set ourselves up with. We don't have the front yet, but that's going to be quite all right. Let's go ahead and just figure out how it's going to look like from the top view. So the top is going to be, let's say, around this amount. That seems to be quite all right. Then the front is going to be here, and then extra space of an empty setup over here with, of course, the nice wagon on the side. So that's good. That's good. We have ourselves the base. I do want to round it off. As I said previously, we can go on to edit mode and we can use beveling option. There are two bevel options in Blender. If you click Ctrl B, you're going to bevel off edges. Even if you are in vertex selection, you are going to be beveling off edges. But if you click Ctrl Shift and B, you're going to be beveling off vertices. Once we click that with a selection of all 4 vertices, we can move our mouse and increase the vertex bevels. We can also use our mouse scrolling up or down to increase the resolution. I'm going to add an extra bit of resolution like so to get this type of a shape. Once we're done with operation, we can use left mouse button to apply the transformation, the bevel. And then we're going to get ourselves the extra menu on the left hand side. So this is going to give us the additional tweaking that we can do using it, and we can see the values that we're using. So all we need to know is width and segment, and that's pretty much it. We don't need to overcomplicate ourselves for this particular purpose, since we're just sorting out the gray box. Let's keep it simple. All right, so we got ourselves a nice piece with a back sorter. Let's go ahead and see how it looks like. Because we had the ambient occlusion, we're going to have the bottom piece added with the ambient. And I think because we added this, I do want to go back real quick and adjust it just a little bit back within the shading and just tweak it just a little bit more. There we go, something like that. Increase this darkness. Much better. All right. So the reason I'm doing it is because the bottom piece was now adding the extra shading. So I just wanted to make sure I account for that. And honestly, this can also use that same material. We can go into material properties. We can add the gray box material through the button over here. And that's just going to use the same type of a material. All right, so we are sorted with the back. I reckon that's going to be quite all right. We have some small props and whatnot, which we can think about in the end. But overall scalability in regards to the proportions of an asset is looking pretty good so far. We now need to consider the overall setup in regards to the front side. So let's go ahead and move on with that in the next lesson. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you in a bit.